talking about the hike in fuel price. State of the nation is our focus, but we'll just be tilting towards the hike in PMS price, what government will be doing to help the citizens to scale through this trying time. From our network center in Benin here, we'll also try to look at some of the crises rocking some political parties, but LP, Labour Party, will be our focus on. But in Abuja, we'll be looking at the APC. But for us here in Benin, we'll be looking at LP's issues, the crises that are lingering there. But that will be if we have luxury of time. Now, to join us, look at the state of the nation from this end. From my immediate left is Wisdom Elder. He's a global analyst. Thank you so much for coming, Wisdom Elder.
Thank you very much for having me. Good morning, viewers out there.
And sitting very close to him is Honorable Blessing Ago. She's a political analyst and a serial businesswoman. Glad to have you.
Thank you. Thanks for having me here.
Okay, all the way from New York. He's coming here for the first time live, having him with us in the studio. Is Stephen Osewenge. He's an analyst, and of course, he's also a politician. Thank you for coming, Stephen.
Thank you very much. I grew up watching ITV in Jare, and I'm a big fan. Thank you. I'm a fan of yours, so I'm glad to be here. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for coming. All right, now, let's take us through, Stephen. We woke up to hiking fuel price, and to an extent from about 520 Naira to 637 Naira, in some places 700 Naira. How did we get here?
Wow, thank you very much for that question. How did we get here? For me, the previous price was bad enough. To wake up to a price hike is adding more pressure to the already saturated environment, whereby people now watch out when they go out. If you notice, most people sit at home. It's almost as though people are on holiday. They don't want to go out. People check when you call them to come and have a meeting, say, where is it? Can we talk on the phone? It's now cheaper to do things remotely. Maybe there's some positives to that, but generally speaking, the economy it's been impacted, because to even go to the market is hard, and food prices is also impacted. The thing about pump price, which we always talk about, it affects everything.
Absolutely.
Even this studio, you guys have to worry about the cost. Coming here today, we have to worry about cost of transportation. So the lower class of our society bear the brunt. So I cannot begin to break down the impact, how it affects the people of Edo State and Nigeria in general. Because right now, today you can buy a cup of rice for this price. Tomorrow it could be the next price, just because of the cost of PMS. And the fact that everyone in the society is kind of not sure of what it will be tomorrow. That lack of a clear path for maybe the 12 months view to be able to plan and budget. I don't know about other individuals. Family budget has been thrown out of the window, because you can budget maybe 10,000 Naira for this week, but Tuesday is over. So I feel that this is something that the government will have to look at. Something has to give for people to be able to feed and transport themselves to where they need to be.
All right, now, Blessing, with the PMS hike as a businesswoman, what impact will it have on our economy?
Series of negative impacts, like he clearly stated. One major one is the different prices when it comes to getting goods and commodity. Like, you want to get something today, the next day it is something else. And you see, a lot of persons too are also taking advantage of the fact that these things are happening in the country. So sometimes I wonder how people are surviving, how people are breathing. Because it's been terrible. Like, some persons do spend up to 3,000 Naira on transportation in a day. And these persons earn 30,000 to 50,000 in a month. So how do they transport themselves moving around and also feed themselves, pay school fees for those who have families?
Absolutely, they are working to transport themselves.
To transport, not even to feed themselves. So there is a whole lot wrong with this thing going on. Yes, some people will say it is best that they remove the subsidy once and for all. Now, when it is being removed, what are the measures put in place to ensure that the citizens of Nigeria do not suffer so much? Now, they said they want to borrow money for palliatives. They refused to borrow that same money for subsidy. Now, they want to borrow this money again. And I want to also understand what data or scale do they use to measure the poorest of the poor in Nigeria. See, we just left an administration that was so dramatic. We had a vice president who was busy going about giving out trader money during election period. We also have this minister for this humanitarian minister, Sadia, who also said she shared billions of dollars to the poorest of the poor in Nigeria. And in that same administration, Nigeria became the poorest in the world. We overtook India with all these palliative measures they said they did. And now President Tinubu.
Are you saying in a way they were not sincere with the distribution?
Absolutely. And President Tinubu is about touring that part. You want to give out 500 billion, and out of that money, you are giving the legislative, the judiciary, about 70 billion out of that money. To do what? Are they among the poor people?
Okay, we'll get back to you. Wisdom Elder, in less than 2 months of this administration, we've seen hike in PMS, like twice. And during the campaign, the president told us that it was going to be renewed hope. Renewed hope from where to where? Can you help us out?
All right. I think there's an analysis that goes like this. On May 29, it was to fill your tank was 15,000. On June 29, to fill your tank is 45,000. On July, to fill your tank is going to be something else. So if it happens like this, then what will happen in August? Maybe August we could be looking at maybe filling your tank with 100,000. You know, so, and you asked a very important question. How did we get to this point? Now, I have to be very realistic to us that we got to this point by abandoning what we ought to have done at the beginning. We have refineries in this country, and those refineries have a capacity to have been working, and then Nigerians have the strength or the capacity to have at least been accessing fuel for, even if not 60 naira, with major profits coming to the federal government, if our refineries are working. That's number one. And what does it take these refineries to work? All over the world, the highest refinery, in one of the refineries in Port Harcourt, I think one of them is about 200,000 barrels per day. The other one is about 60,000. Then you have the one at Warri, 100 and something thousand and per day, and then you have the one at Kaduna, 100 and something thousand. So these refineries combining together, if these refineries are properly rehabilitated before now, I don't think Nigerians will be having challenge of the accessing petroleum products. The reason is because we actually have the products here in the country.
So
we
export
crude.
The solution is in fixing the refineries.
Crude is found in this country. We have the crude. In fact, Bonny-like crude oil is the best crude all over the world. The crude with the highest number of byproducts. Bonny-like crude oil. Take it and go and do research. The crude oil with the highest number of byproducts. That means if a crude from every other country can give you certain number of byproducts, Bonny-like crude oil will give you far much more. That means from even Bonny-like crude oil, you can have different branches, different byproducts up to our hair, human hairs. That means you have a lot of products that can come having refined our Bonny-like crude oil that will give jobs to Nigerians. So God himself has blessed this country. But the problem is, how did we get here? The wrong people taking over the system. We had no reason to always have budgets for turnaround maintenance where you can actually fix the refineries. What does it take to fix this refinery? To build one of the refineries in Port Harcourt, let me tell you, the one, Dangote refinery, take for example, which is the biggest in the world now, you know how many billions of dollars it took. Now, Nigerian government, we already know that we trade crude every day. We export crude every day. My brother, how can you be exporting a product and the byproduct is scarce in your own land? We export crude every day, and sometimes off record we export more than what is on record due to crude oil thefts. That has not been addressed at all. Okay. Now, we also have other channels that have been generating money for this country. Take, for example, the bank charges. I've always mentioned that because this DSS man brought that to our attention, that all the bank charges, all the bank transactions and the charges that were introduced by Mefele actually are monies that are supposed to be used to even revive every facet of this economy. But according to him, those monies, some part of it go, you know, there are different departments that then a portion of it goes out and is brought in. So what I was asking is, how can we say we are borrowing money to fund our budget, whereas some of the money we are receiving are money that actually leave this country? There are certain corruption loopholes that if a different government does not come into this country, forget it, it cannot be handled. Okay. I stand authoritatively as somebody who is into the system, politically and otherwise, except a different set of people rule this country, Nigeria will never get it right. That's the truth.
When we come back to you, Stephen Osawege, what says you? If things are wrong in a way from what he has said, do you think if we have different set of people come on board, we'll have a better country?
Absolutely. I believe that you cannot continue to do the same thing and expect a different result. We know the antecedents of all those that are currently superintending over our country, and we know what their records show. And our country are yearning for a new direction. I believe that, like you mentioned about the oil and gas, we can talk about it the whole day. The level of corruption all the way from the top to the bottom to the downstream sector is very vast. I believe also that Nigerian government has not proven to be very effective in running things like refineries. It's indeed a better direction to seek private sector partnership, to be able to do that so that government will inspect to make sure things are run. Because till now, we hear about the turnaround maintenance. We talk about the fact that we have the raw crude, but we cannot seem to refine it. But right now, I was thinking that the Dangote refinery should have been able to come in now and ameliorate some of this biting issue with the fuel crisis. But let's get these refineries into private hands. For me, that would turn around those issues so that we can have fuel in Nigeria. So you don't have to worry about Forex, worry about the dollar rate. Today, I heard the dollar is 860 to the
850.
850, 860. This is adding more pressure to the ordinary Nigeria. Something has to give. We need a new direction, a new vision, a new set of people, I would argue. Absolutely.
But that will be after the court proceedings. The court is still sitting, and let's just hope it pans out the other way around. However, Blessing, let's now look at it critically. The government is planning to assist the poorest of the poor. In the past, you're either rich or you're poor. But recently in Nigeria, we now have the poorest among the poor. So, are you sure this money will get to the end users? The 8,000 naira palliative the government is planning to give. Are you sure? In all honesty.
That's my fear. Please, you just permit me. I had an experience with this NASA, federal government, anchor borrowers. You know, I'm one of the most celebrated farmers in Edo State here.
Okay. Congratulations.
Okay. Thank you. So, a few years ago, I was contacted and they said they wanted to empower farmers. So I reached out to those farmers that I knew, and this was from the federal government and from Bini Onwina precisely. We went to Asaba for training, so it was going to be rice empowerment. Now, what I want to say about this is they said that they are not going to send the money to the farmers directly because they were scared that some persons will run away with the fund. Okay, they will put it in your account. There will be a flag on that account. You cannot access the account except the organizers of this whole thing. They will be the one to withdraw these monies for you. They get the things that you need and they give to you to do the farm. I said, good idea. Now, as an experienced farmer, I was surprised when I saw what they wrote out. For 1 hectare of land, for instance, they wrote about 5 fertilizers. And I queried it, that what do you want to use 5 fertilizers to cultivate 1 hectare of land for? To just conclude the whole thing is they kept withdrawing monies from this account.
Without your consent?
Without our consent, without us even getting any of these materials.
And it was in your bank account?
The banks were created with our name.
Okay.
Access bank account. So sometimes I wake up and I'm waiting to hear from the federal government that I'm holding a particular amount of money, and I ask them, did you give me the money? So this is how badly corruption has eaten into the system in this country.
So they brought money and gave themselves in your name?
And I don't know.
Spent it on your behalf?
Yes, they created an account with our names. The federal government paid the monies into the account.
In your name?
Yes, and they were making the withdrawals without our consent.
That's not fair.
Exactly. And you see, they were brought in the NASA, which were like the middlemen between the CBN and the farmers. The job of the NASA was to correct these abnormalities to ensure that the farmers utilize this fund. But at the end of the day, we know what played out.
Wisdom Elder, this is a case of robbing Peter to pay Paul.
To pay Paul, exactly.
So we are in Nigeria.
Sorry, to your question,
Okay,
let me
yes,
conclude.
right.
So, you see, if I have a personal experience like this, so I'm so scared that these palliative measures they are trying to put in place will not get to the poorest of the poor according to them. As I've said earlier, what are they going to use 70 billion out of this palliative money to do? Why are they removing it? Are these senators and House of Reps members, are they among the poorest of the poor? And what are they using to measure this poorest of the poor? If for the 5,000 naira they said they were paying the poorest of the poor, I've never met anyone
during
who
the previous government.
Yes. So, you know, enough of these all activities. They keep embarrassing us, the citizens, and thinking that we are so naive, or is it that they think that we do not actually have a voice to speak against these ills that they commit in the government?
That's why you're speaking here now this morning. All right, now, Wisdom Elder, some persons are saying they should convert these monies, put it into something else. Instead of sending it to the poorest of the poor, whoever might be the recipient of the money, convert it to something else. Are you of that line?
All right, I think why all these things are panning out and why the government seems to be dishing out some of these things and making it to look like it's a news. I think maybe some technocrats and some major companies in this country are actually supposed to also be coming in when it comes to cushioning the effects of certain economic hardship. In developed countries, most bigger companies always come in times like this, and people also contribute, you understand. But in Nigeria, I think because maybe government feels they can tell them they are giving them 8,000 naira, Your Excellencies, wherever you're watching me, 8,000 naira cannot sustain anybody for more than 2 days. In case, I know you people are disconnected from the poor. So that is why you say...
Are you sure
you have, yes, absolutely.
Are you sure?
I tell you, I'm an insider. So there's no level of intimidation that anybody can give me. I understand the game very, very well. The only time they are connected to the poor is when it's getting closer to elections. That is the only time they are connected. And it's a very shameful thing in a country like this that our leaders... There was a time Harida Waziri, the EFCC boss, one time said, our politicians and some of our wealthy people in Nigeria have psychological problems. She said, I don't see how people around you will be suffering and you'll be starting money into foreign accounts, leaving them there without those money being used for anything. And why? Why will your next door neighbor be living in a mud house and you are living in a celebrated mansion? For crying out loud, is that not a psychological deformation? Okay. Now you manage the bad road with us. You manage no water with us. You manage insecurity with us. You manage poor connection all the things that you don't even see happen, like some of the connection in some of the cable channels that they don't even use in their own countries. You manage those things with us. You go out of the country, and then you have billions of money, sometimes even in foreign currencies, stored in your accounts, doing absolutely nothing. Now, let me help you. We talked about this refinery because some people have said this money can be used to even reactivate some of our refineries so that we can even enjoy. You know, politicians will not give you solution to a problem. Rather, they will give you a kind of ameliorative measure that will make you feel the problem has left. Then from behind, they will go and collect another thing that is far much bigger than what you are getting, so that the problem will continue. Anybody that gets his 8,000 naira today, you are going to spend it tomorrow. In fact, we have already started spending it. Today we bought fuel, like you talked about fuel. We bought fuel for excess of how much? 200 naira. So if you collected 8,000 yesterday and you buy your fuel, so somebody has collected much more than that money they are giving to you. So it's not making sense at all. Let me come into something.
We'll come back to you. All right. Just hold that on one of your hands.
Yeah, yes.
We'll get back to you. Stephen Osawenge, the service chiefs were screened and confirmation has taken place already. But with the screening and confirmation of the service chiefs, do you think it will help us to curb oil theft in some of the regions of the country?
It's a good thing that we have people to hold accountable for security as head of these agencies.
Yeah.
But it's important to note that the oil theft are done by big wigs, which we know. There was a time where my principal, Peter Obi, mentioned that it is certain people that steal this oil. They know themselves. And we found nine bunkering points within a week of its announcing that. Have they prosecuted the people that put those 9 bunkering points? I think the oil theft question is at the heart of the corruption of Nigeria. I did a little bit of work in the oil and gas in Port Harcourt some years ago, and I know I was part of the joint investigation team who was removing the bunkering points. As they are removing them, the next week they are reinstalling them. There is a partnership in crime in the oil and the gas industry.
Those are some of the things you observed during your stay?
Yeah, during my work in the oil and gas. It is a continuous, there's a TMPA line that connects all the way to Forcados. There's always a bunkering point. Every single time you remove it, they will go and put, somebody knows what's going on. So let's not kid ourselves that these new service chiefs, they have been there. They know what's happening. If they mean to end oil theft, they will end it today. Because again, you do not steal oil with a jerry can. It is vessels. We have seen some vessels accosted and burnt. I would have argued they should have seized those vessels and collect the crude that belongs to Nigeria and sell it and make money for Nigeria instead of setting it on fire. It is unconscionable that, again, these experts decide to set up, again, the environmental implications. I have seen firsthand the degradation. I worked with the Ogoni Restoration Project. You see what oil spills have done. And because of the oil theft, they don't install very well, polluting the environment. So there are so many layers. So the new service chief, I want to employ them to do the right thing. You know, that word is a cliche. Do the right thing is something that if we all do it, Nigeria will be more secure. And if we secure our resources, again, the oil and gas is one small part. Our largest resources is the human capital resources. We have unemployment, people under 40, loafing about, nothing to do. This is the resources. What is the resources of Japan? What is the resources of China? What is the resources of countries across the world who are doing very well at the top tier? It is because they invest in their people. So I would even, away from the oil, let's invest on our people. This also palliative of 8,000. I would have even suggested, I saw a chart about, why not provide buses with this money and fuel these buses and give subsidized transports to those that are working and free for the elderly and the children that are going to school. That bus will do more than 8,000 for somebody. 8,000 cannot solve your problem.
Okay.
You look very good. 8,000 cannot dress you up.
Absolutely, 8,000 will go nowhere. Wisdom Elder, you still have what you wanted to say?
Yes, okay. I wanted to tell you that there are so many companies. It's based in New York. There are so many companies.
I need to correct that. I'm based in Benin.
Yeah.
I'm based
All right.
I'm raised in Benin.
He based in Benin.
All right, he's based in Benin. Okay, that was your introduction. Okay, let me say this. I consult for project owners and project handlers. A lot of project owners that intends to source for funds, foreign funds, especially funds that can be used to power a lot of their projects here in this country. I know the challenges a lot of those project owners we've gone through, I know how it has been very difficult to access certain funds that are coming as grants into this country to develop certain projects, even modular refineries. A modular refinery from 200 million, 300 million, and all the rest of them, a modular refinery can be said. So many refineries, so many people were given licenses for modular refineries when Jonathan was here. All those projects died because the way this link, the pattern of bringing fund into the country was somehow truncated. That project, a lot of people's projects were stopped because money was no longer allowed to come in the way money used to come in. Most of the money, if it gets into the country, they will ask you to share. And if you are getting these funds on loan, you cannot even be sharing money that is coming on loan to certain number of persons. And our people in government forget that this money is actually coming for certain projects that will better the economy and actually impact on their own government. Now, that is a part. Now, if CBN wants to give grants to owners of modular refineries, it's possible. But let me tell you something that will shock you. There are so many companies all over the world that are willing to use their funds to revive even the refineries in this country. So what's stopping them? Without federal government input. So what they can do is come, sign agreement with you, they will revive the refineries, they will operate it for certain number of years, and within that period they will get their money when product is highly subsidized. Not only that, the power issue as well. There are so many companies, the rail issue, there are so many companies all over the world. Some projects that are supposed to come to this country have left this country and gone to other countries. Funds that were made to handle certain projects for economic development, certain projects that is supposed to be going for poor countries all over the world, and such funds, such sovereign funds are supposed to come into this country. So could it be that our leaders are not proactive? My brother, if we cannot do away, our people, if you cannot do away with the crop of people that have invested into the leadership system of this country now, I don't think these people mean well for this country. Another blessing, corruption. I don't think they mean well for this country. Okay, take heart, Wisdom Elder. We are all in this together. You are emotional this morning. Honorable Blessing, corruption is one of the things that is killing us. How can we come out of it? What should we do to come out of corruption?
I would say it needs to start from the top. But, you know, they say an average Nigerian is corrupt. That if we look at our lifestyle, our daily activities, we kind of do some certain things that are not right. But it needs to start from the top. Like, politicians or our leaders should learn to stop amassing wealth for themselves that they do not need, really. Because the moment they start looking at it from that angle, they will actually have the mindset of developing our nation. Because you release funds for a particular project. At the end of the day, they don't even use up to 10% of that money to execute that project. The moment they start having this mindset that this money is meant for the construction of this road, let's use it to construct this road. You see, gradually, it will start waving down to the downstream, to the common Nigerian. Everybody will start instilling this discipline in them. Like what this subsidy is costing us now, like he said, that people now calculate their movement. You don't just leave your house anyhow the way we used to. So you see, by the time they start checking these things from the top, it has a way of spreading across to every Nigerian to start doing things right, because the reason for this corruption is greed. So it needs to start from the leadership. Everybody wants to be into politics today because politicians becomes very, very wealthy overnight. So if the banking sector, all the sectors are doing the right things, I think it will go a long way to reduce the level of corruption.
Okay, we need to wrap up now. Quickly, Stephen, walk us through. What should Nigerians do at this point? It's a reality that has come, and to an extent it has come to stay. Because some persons actually said nothing ever goes up in Nigeria and comes down again. It keeps skyrocketing. What should Nigerians do at this point?
Thank you very much. for the conversation so far. For me, whatever we are facing today is not new to us. Our problem is not unique. Many other countries have gone through it. We say corruption. Nigerians are not the only people on earth that can have the issues of corruption. But how do you deal with it? There has to be proper institutions in place. Citizens' participation is very key. In the last election, general election, we saw a reawakening of the population, getting involved in the deciding leadership. I think that energy has to be sustained. We need to be involved in who becomes our leaders. And when we finish election, we don't go back home. We must also follow through. What is the budget? We all need to start reading the budget and finding out, asking the right questions. Also, with the issue of my brother rightly raised about foreign direct investment, which is what he was talking about. I've worked in Manhattan, New York, where you have Wall Street. There is billions and billions of dollars waiting to go to countries that the money can go, but they will not go to where there's corruption. They will not go to a place where there is no transparency. So when you bring a government that brings about transparency, there's something I call my own strategies: honesty, integrity, accountability, and transparency. If you have that, and the world sees you, that you can actually hold corrupt leaders accountable, there's no big wigs, they will bring in the resources. There are people, I'm aware of companies that are willing to build a refinery, for example, if they will be sure that their investment will be protected. Okay. So that once we all get involved in governance, talking about collective, focusing on who is the leader, what is he doing, if people are called out for corruption, they should be, justice should be seen to be hard, and there should be transparency. Okay, let's just quickly. That money from outside can come because we need external funding. We don't have the money to industrialize.
Abuja Studio is already standing by. With the matter quickly, 10 seconds. Give us your final take on the show.
All right, yeah, Nigeria, like we are witnessing everything that's going on here. Nigerians, you need to stand up. We need to rise up. I, for one, I will say it's unacceptable. Our politicians cannot be taking us for a ride, and we should not accept it. Every day, goods that come into every market, they keep increasing. They told me in the market, they keep increasing with their price every single day. If you call our market women, they will tell you what they are going through in the market. Nigerians, we cannot accept this. Okay. I, Wisdom Elder, am telling us we cannot accept people taking us for a ride in this country. Enough is enough.
Honorable Blessing, quickly, your final shot before we link up with Abuja Studio.
I think the time for us to hit the streets again is now.
Yeah.
That is what I think.
Let's not go that part.
Okay. Hitting the streets is part of democracy. Yes. It's not wrong. There's nothing wrong with protest.
Exactly.
Protest is showing the government that you don't accept what is going on.
We've been too quiet.
Yes, you've been so quiet.
It's as if they shut us up that we don't have a say anymore. So I think, like we did in the last election, we need to make a statement again. That is the only thing I think we can do now, because...
So do you have the strength and capacity to hit the streets?
Of course, in the next week. In fact, I led the revolution of end land grabbing last 2 years in this state.
You led it?
Of course. I led that protest.
Well, the former president actually said Nigerian youths are lazy. So with the crop of lazy youth we have, do you think that will be visible?
Of course, very, very visible.
The strategy of poverty is to deny youth protest.
We are living now.
Yes, I want to quickly say that for us who participated in the last election, our eyes are on the judiciary to do the right thing. That is what the calm of the graveyard, the calm before the storm is what you are seeing. The people are not sleeping. We are watching the judiciary to do the right thing and let justice be done and be seen to be done. We are waiting on the judiciary.
The language the government understands.
Well, like the president actually said, that we should let the poor breathe. We owe them that responsibility. These are the words of the President and Commander-in-Chief of Armed Forces. I think we should remind him at this point that the poor need to breathe.